we are going to learn how to use the new silicone products brought to you by Tropical Roofing Products. This is going to be our 900 series. What we have here is epoxy A and epoxy B. We're going to take these products. First we need to mix them individually, then we're going to mix them together. Let us begin. So we're going to put it into a container so that we don't have any overspill. We keep it as tight as possible. Remove the lids. We're going to stir it using just a standard wood stir stick. We want to mix it up thoroughly. As you can see, it's blending together rather nicely, easily, just using a wooden stick. We don't need to beat it with a mixing wand, just a standard stir stick. We got a nice consistency going here, as you can see. Now we're going to mix part B, as you see here through the label. I need one more stir stick. You can see how it's got separation in it, which is normal. Don't be scared. We're going to mix that up nice and steady, easy. We want a nice blend as we did with the other. We'll see a color change as we're blending it. Takes a couple minutes to mix it up so you can get it thoroughly blended. You can see if any residual comes off of the pail as I'm mixing it, it's going into the 3-gallon bucket, so it's not going onto the roof deck or whatever surface that you are blending this at. You want to be as careful and as neat as possible. It does take quite a bit of mixing on the part B. The containers will come in different sizes depending upon the job that you are working with. The 1 gallon being the smallest. Also will come in a 5-gallon, which you would mix and then mix together. We've got a nice consistency going, as you can see. Good color, no discoloration, no separation, everything is blending perfectly. Give it a few more turns. Pull the wand out. Now we see the difference. We see the dark gray on our part B. We see the white, off-white color with the part A. Cans mixed up. Keep in mind, if you are using a larger container, such as a 5-gallon pail, a stir stick's not going to work for you. You want to use a drill. You want to make sure that you're using a clean wand that is not contaminated, has no rust on it, no dirt, no acrylic elastomeric, because that may pour the moisture out and cause a problem. So we've got a brand new one here, as you can see. So we're going to begin by pouring out the part A into the pail. We've already mixed it individually, and now we're going to blend them together. We want to get out as much of the product as possible so there's no waste. Just use a simple stir stick. Get everything out of there that we can. Good to the last drop. Now we will bring over the part B. Put this directly on top. We've already mixed it once. Now we're going to mix them together. We want to get out as much of the product as possible. We're going to go back to that stir stick. Good to the last drop. Now we begin mixing it together. Low speed. We want to submerge the blender so we don't get any splash. What we're creating here is the primer. This will be the first pass that we put down. We're going directly to a cap sheet. Not always necessary, depending upon the roof situation. You want to mix this up for a minute or two. Get a good blend. Now you notice a little color discoloration of the two products mixing together. Get a nice color. I want to make sure I've got it all from the top to the bottom, inside and out. Using a low speed mixer. Now we increase the speed on the drill to a higher speed because we've got it relatively together. We want to make sure we get good mixing. Keep in mind, this is the primer that we're using to put down on cap sheet roofs. Once you've got a good blend going, we got it nice and mixed up. You can see it. Good consistency, good color. Get off any excess. We want every drop in that bucket. Our tools immediately before it has a chance to set up onto our lawn, because we definitely want to use this lawn again at some other point in time. Now we've taken off a majority of the product from the wand. We want to get the excess off. Use a simple 2-inch brush here. Brush off any excess. You want to keep your tools as clean as possible so you can use them multiple times. Doesn't take a lot of effort. Applying the primer. We will start with the seams and work the seam first so we can allow that to cure the fastest before we apply our seam sealer. Keep in mind, all asphaltic based roofs must have the primer put down. Let's begin. We're just going to easily saturate it into the roller. The excess come off, a little shaking. And we want to make sure that once we've mixed our part A and part B, that we use it within 2 to 4 hours of that mixture so that it doesn't set up and it's non-usable. I'm putting it down, letting the roller do its thing. Make sure we got enough on there to saturate it completely. Okay, we want to make sure that we thoroughly get enough onto the seam and cover all nooks and crannies. I'm putting it down. Not too heavy, but heavy enough that we got the seam completely sealed out. If we need to come back and come and press it into that seam, that's not a problem. We work it in as such. Get it over the top. Work it in as much as possible. May have to lightly press the roller down, come back, all the crevices, all the little nooks and crannies. Now we have an off-lap situation here. As you can see, we want to make sure this gets primed as well, and we'll use our seam sealer to seal that edge up. Make sure that it is watertight and sealed properly. We'll go over first. So, get the in-lap, like so. Make sure we get all the nooks and crannies. Push off any excess. We're not wasting any product. Good. We're going to continue on and prime the entire cap sheet surface. Got a heavy body consistency, as you can tell by the spread ratio. Spreads very easily. You want to make sure it's even. And you encapsulate the entire granule. You want to make sure you back roll to get all sides of that granule as well. Don't just put it in one direction. Little touch-up may be necessary to hit any potholes you may have missed. You always want to check in two directions. First, check it this direction, turn around, come back and look at it from a different direction on the opposite side so you can ensure that you got all granules. We missed a few, so I want to go back over those, make sure that they're all coated. We have an evenly coated surface to which to work with. It's a little bit windy out here today. We are getting a little bit of debris into it. I'm just going to pick it out lightly, take it out of the coating or the primer. You don't want anything else binding to it, such as leaves, twigs, sticks. Depending upon the porosity of the roof, will determine how much primer is going to be necessary. Anywhere from 0.8 gallons per square, could be up to 1.2 gallons per square. Depending upon the age of the roof will determine porosity. We want to make sure we got it completely embedded into the granules and that the whole thing is sealed up tight and evenly. Now today we're actually rolling the product. It can be spray applied. Keep in mind, if you are spray applying it, you want to make sure that you back roll the product into all sides of the granules. If you're going to spray it, it's going to go down between 1 to 1.5 gallons per square. So rather than dunking the roller into the bucket, we poured it out. Rule of thumb, you want to go between 3 and 4 inches wide, heavy, steady consistency. That allows us to put the product down a little bit faster, rather than having to dunk the roller into the bucket each and every time. We want to make sure that we're consistent, that the product's going down at the right ratio, no wasting of the product. We've got to make sure that all sides of that granule gets encompassed. So I'll go in one direction, and then we'll come back in a crosshatch manner to ensure all sides of the granules are covered. We've applied the primer down. We want to go back and inspect it to ensure that all the granules are encased. You can see we applied it evenly. It's in a curing state now. It can take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending upon temperature and humidity. You see I missed a little spot there, so I touched that up. And we ensure we've got all sides of the granule and the entire cap sheet. Priming is a priority. We're priming another penetration, just happens to be a turbine as well, but it has an aluminum-based coating on top of it. We make sure that we prime it so that the adhesion of the epoxy silicone is going to bond to it properly. And we want to make sure we get all the nooks and crannies, so we'll touch it up with a brush. We do the heavier parts with a roller. We touch up with the brush. We have a transition area here, so we have to ensure that we get it all. A brush will be needed. Once we've got it all sealed, we'll allow it 2 to 4 hours to cure. We have an old asphaltic area that we're going to silicone as well, so we got to make sure we get it primed properly. We're going to do a small test area here. Test areas are good to ensure adhesion if necessary to different substrates. Put down a small amount, let it cure properly 2 to 4 hours. Now we're going to go over a metal area. We have a transition of the roof to metal. We still need to prime it with the part A, part B that's been mixed together. We want to get it on there thoroughly. The metal is already clean and dry. The cap sheet may not be, but we're only working with the metal area. We want to make sure we're consistent. It's going to go anywhere from 0.8 gallons per square up to a gallon per square of primer. We are going to create a seam sealer as well as a penetration sealer. What we have is we're using a silicone-based product, and we're going to add a microfiber to it. Be sure that if it's windy outside, you keep it covered so it doesn't blow away on you. First, we're going to take the silicone and we're going to mix it. We've got our drill, 1/2-inch chuck, clean wand. Make sure that you're using a clean tool, not something that has any residue on it or acrylic. It can affect the silicone. Let's begin. I'm going to mix it up for a minute or so, make sure that it's thoroughly blended, and that the product is going to intermix with the microfibers evenly. Start off at a low speed, get it all in there, switch it over to a high speed, and it is good. We do need to keep our tools clean, so as we draw it out, we'll get any excess off of here. We get as much out of the product as possible. Now we're going to pour that into a 3-gallon container. You could use a 2-gallon, 3-gallon, not a problem. We want to get any excess materials out so we're not wasting anything. Now we're going to add in our microfibers. Be careful to do it slowly so that it doesn't just poof out on you and you lose any product. You can make a stiffer product by adding more microfibers to it, or we can back it off a little bit if we need a little bit thinner, depending upon what you need. We're going to use that same wand. Low speed. Let the drill do the work. May take a minute or so to get it all properly blended. We've got to make sure that it's thoroughly blended, and that there's no microfiber sitting on top of the material. It's all intermixed. drill down. If you don't have access to a drill and a wand, we can always use a stir stick. It may take some effort and patience, but it can be done. And add some more silicone to it to thin it down to get it to the proper ratio that we need. Simply add a little more to it. I put about 1/3 of a gallon extra. And we'll mix it by hand. Seam sealer / penetration sealer. We've got it at the consistency that we want it at. As you can tell, the fibers have blended very nicely. Now we're going to apply it onto our cap sheet. We've already primed it. It's cured out. We're going to begin. We're going to apply with a brush, our putty knife, as you can see here. Scoop it out. Apply it down. Remove any excess. We'll brush in to ensure that it gets in there completely. We brush it into the seams tight, get any excess out. Make sure that seam is locked in very tight. We'll continue on down the whole run of the cap sheet at the seam. Remove any excess and make sure that that gap is covered completely. Nice and even. If we need to touch anything up, we can touch it up with a brush if necessary. We have a little touch up to do, and we want to come across from the lower end of the cap to the upper. Brush it across as so, but we want to make sure that that bridging gets tight. There's no gap, and it's an even, smooth transition. We applied the heavier portion with a putty knife / trowel. Now we're smoothing it over with a small 2-inch brush. Remove any excess. Continue down. What we have here is a transition area where we have three cap points meeting at one intersection. So we want to seal that up. First, we're going to take silicone by itself without any of the microfibers in it. Get the excess off. We're going to apply that down over the primed surface. Get any excess off, and we let the roller do the work. We're going to go heavy enough to where it seals out the gap. We're going to do a 3-course with this to ensure better adhesion, tensile strength. We want to be sure to put it down heavy enough so that when we do our 3-coursing, we've got enough product underneath it to allow for saturation into the polyester. It still binds enough to where we can 3-course over the top of it. We're going to seal up a seam where the cap sheets join together. Using the silicone by itself without any microfibers, we'll put it down pretty heavy because we're going to do a 3-course manner. Just like we would a standard mastic, we want to put down product heavy enough underneath it and allow the polyester to saturate into it and put a course over the top of it. So we go a little heavy. We're going to run it all the way down the cap. Now we're going to install the polyester into the wet silicone that we put down as our base coat. We take it down to the edge, lay it down, make sure it gets right in the center. Give it a little touch, just to press it in lightly. That way it doesn't move on you. We're going to take the silicone, go back over the top of it. We do need to hold the end down so that it does not rise up above and we get good attachment. So go back over it. Encapsulate the polyester. We need to go a little heavy, so we encapsulate all the polyester. Hold that down, Dave, please. We need to adjust it. You have to get a little dirty. Pull the polyester. We don't want any wrinkles or buckles. We want a consistent amount going down. Even. Now you can notice that the polyester has been embedded completely. And we've got a nice tight seal along that seam. Make sure you go in one direction so that you don't lift the polyester up if you back roll on it. And remember, go tropical. Now we're going to continue with the silicone onto the cap sheet. The cap sheet has been primed. We've given it enough duration to cure properly. I'm going to pour this out to give us a little bit better production value. We're going to pour it out about 3 to 4 inches wide, all the way down through the cap sheet. And then we'll begin spreading it evenly throughout. We back roll to ensure that the granule gets silicone on every side. We have a prime deck that we allowed to cure between 2 and 4 hours. We put the primer down at approximately 1 gallon per square. Now we're going to put down the silicone at approximately 1.5 gallons per square using a roller to apply it. So we spread it out about 4 inches wide, evenly through the middle of the cap sheet to ensure we get a thorough coat and we can work the product in. I'm not applying much pressure with the roller, just letting the roller do its thing. It's moving the material around. As you can see, I got 2 fingers on it. That's all it's going to take, very little pressure. You want to make sure that it's evenly applied throughout the entire cap sheet. You want to make sure that you back roll to ensure that you get all sides of the granules. Now that we have it evenly applied, we have it tied into our seam sealer. Nice, clean, smooth surface. And once again, applying very little pressure with the roller. We want the roller to do the work, but we don't want to spread it to where it pushes the material out. We just want it to move it out evenly. But as you can see, I'm applying very little pressure. I'm pushing it with the palm of my hand, letting the roller do its own thing. Remember, go tropical. We've added our fibers to the product. We've got it at the viscosity where we want it. We're going to pack it around the penetration. At the heaviest part of the transition, it's going to go down at approximately 1/2 inch, sometimes even a little bit greater, so we can create enough product to seal the whole corner gap. We'll go back with a detailed trowel and smooth it out. Now we've applied it heavily enough, between 1/2 inch and 3/4 of an inch at the transition area where the metal is hitting the deck. We're going to smooth it out using a rubber edged trowel. Not pressing very hard. That way we get it nice and smooth all the way around the penetration. We're not removing any products, just using the pressure of the trowel. Gets it nice and smooth, evenly applied. We may have to apply a little bit more product where the trowel doesn't meet the deck. Now we're priming another penetration, just happens to be a turbine as well, but it has an aluminum-based coating on top of it. We make sure that we prime it so that the adhesion of the epoxy silicone is going to bond to it properly. And we want to make sure we get all the nooks and crannies, so we'll touch it up with a brush. We do the heavier parts with a roller, we touch up with the brush. We have a transition area here, so we have to ensure that we get it all. The brush will be needed. Now we're going to do a 3-course method around a penetration. We need to put it on the base as well as on the flashing. Heavy enough to encompass 3/4 of a polyester fabric. We'll notch the polyester so that we can do a round transition. First we seal it all out. The first application of our ready-made mastic using our fibers and the silicone mixture. Coating of the mastic that we've taken with the silicone and our microfibers and created our own product to the consistency that we wanted. I've cut the polyester so we make a round transition. We're going to go ahead and tuck it on there. We want to go 2 inches up and 2 inches out. Want to place it in nice and easy, applying very little pressure, just enough to where it's going to bond. We're going to brush it down. Push in the corners at the transition so that we ensure that they stay in tight. We don't want those pulling away. We go back to our mastic and we apply over the top of it heavily enough to get the polyester fully embedded. Remove any excess if necessary. Get it all smooth and even. We no longer see the polyester, and we're finished sealing up the penetration. Once we've got the 3-coursing done, as you'll see, the penetration is sealed tight, nice and smooth. We'll apply silicone back over the top of it when we tie in the rest of the roof. We've got a sealed penetration that's going to last for years and years to come. And remember, go tropical.